Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about goals. Now this is the first video in my series, so I'd really appreciate if you give me a like and some feedback on what I can do in future videos. This will be a 3-part series, so make sure you check the second and third video. I'll put the links in the description down below. Where was I? Right. All the motivating speeches that I had forgotten that I'd given to myself at the beginning of January. One way or another, we all do this. When January 1st rolls around, we're all channeling our inner superheroes. We're armed with a list of resolutions as long as the Great Wall. But how often do we end up working on the whole list? Or better yet, say we did work on all of it. Why do we encounter ourselves in December looking back and wondering what happened to those goals? What has become of these resolutions? And that is today's focus. We're going to be talking about how to make goals that stick. We need to think of a new game plan, a new way to devise and organize our lives in a way that we will be more consistent with our goals. So let me present to you 3 images or 3 different ways that we look at goals. The first is the target. This is the great envisionment that leads you to making changes in your life. It's like the big picture. This is the idea that everyone thinks about, everyone focuses on, and this is the main audience and the most popular perspective that is used. Now, the second picture represents the system of which this goal is achieved. This is like sort of the side view where people are sitting on the bleachers watching and spectating. And then the third represents consistency. Now, this is the angle that people rarely think about. If you don't apply this plan consistently, you're not going to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And today we're going to be talking about the days that you feel lousy, the days that matter the most. Keep these perspectives in mind, and we're going to be talking about them throughout the video, and we're going to be covering why we need to think more about our consistency rather than our goals. So many of you have probably heard of SMART goals. This is a technique throughout the internet. Everyone has seen videos talking, oh, let's make SMART goals. They have to be specific, measurable, achievable, all that. But in my opinion, these goals are lacking. Being realistic and making sure the goal is achievable doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful. There are other factors, including your psychology, your mental health, that affect whether or not you're going to actually achieve this goal. It might be realistic, but Thomas Edison's goal wasn't necessarily realistic. When he wanted to make the light bulb, it took 1,000 tries. On the first try, he was nowhere near realistically achieving this goal, but he had it in mind and he wanted to achieve this goal, and that is what differentiated him from the rest. He himself mentions that the light bulb took 1,000 steps, not 1,000 errors. This is why we need to start thinking a little bit deeper and finding a new game plan that will truly allow us to achieve our goals. And rather than devising a whole new system, I think we need to just build on this one and use this system as our background. So this begs the question, if not SMART goals, then what do we need to add to this to make our goals more successful? And this is where I present to you 3 new categories with 3 subcategories of elements that will help us make our goals. First, we'll start by building some foundation. After foundation, we need to kindle the flame of motivation, because after you've been motivated in January, how do you keep that fire burning all year long? And then last but not least, we're going to talk about having mindfulness and good support. And hopping straight into it, we're going to start by mentioning clarity. Without clarity, we don't know what our goal is, and without knowing what our goal is, we're never going to achieve anything. Think about it like walking through a forest and you're trying to find your way home. If you don't know where your home is, then you're just going to decide, I'm just going to walk in one direction and hope I find my way home. You find 2 paths and you say, I'm going to go on this one because I feel like it might take me home. But if you know which way you want to go and which way your home is, or which way salvation or whatever it is you're looking for is, then you're going to take that path. This is why you need to know where you're going and where you're headed at all times. If forever you feel confused or lacking the clarity towards where you're headed, then take a pause and think about what could you change. Okay, so we've talked about clarity. Next we have motivation. This is probably one of the biggest topics. Now, I think it's really important that we talk about motivation because this is the flame that kindles your spirit. It's the flame that makes you want to do this in the first place. Now, I've already said this before, but I'm going to say it again. When January comes by, we all feel like we're lacking of many things and we want to fix ourselves by piling up miles and miles of work and new routines and game plans or diets or whatever on ourselves because we think new year, new me. In reality, we're gonna end up forgetting about most, if not all, of these things by the time December comes by, and then we're gonna remember them again, and we're gonna start from day one all over again. So how do we prevent this? Well, we need to find motivation. Now I'm gonna present two different quotes. The first quote is by Muhammad Ali, and he says, "Don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." The second quote is by Mark Twain, or also Confucius. They both said, "Choose a job that you love and you will have to work a day in your life." Now these are heavily contrasting each other and they have lots of ideas. Muhammad Ali's quote mentions that respecting the grind is all there is to success, and in reality, if it's not painful, then you're not doing it correctly, and that if it's too painful, then you're just not fit for this task. Mark Twain mentions money will follow passion, and this is a very big statement because for many people, they have many passions. Let's say I like to play the guitar. I'm not necessarily going to make 6 figures from playing the guitar. Like, those people who actually end up doing that are really rare, and you just end up putting yourself at the minority when you could give yourself the advantage when it comes to making money, that is. So if you have the goal to be a rock star one day, then go ahead by all means and do it. I'm not stopping you, but I'm just saying, we want to put ourselves in the greater advantage, and that's why, in my personal opinion, I want a balance between the two. There's a little gray area. Instead of suffering all the time, and instead of trying to make money out of whatever it is I love, I think what's best is to love what you do, and in loving what you're doing, then you're gonna end up being more successful overall. Now that we've talked about motivation and 2 possible methods of finding motivation or sources of motivation, we need to talk about having actionable steps. This is the third and last part of our foundation. Having actionable steps means taking bite sizes that are actually bite-sized. It doesn't matter how big of a step the initial step is. Afterwards, we need to steady ourselves and make sure that we are always heading towards that path, no matter how small a step we take. This also helps us believe that we are able to finish this task that we've set on our plate. In taking large portions, the only thing that we do achieve is making our finished end result more sloppy and messy. And ultimately, this will just discourage us from continuing towards this goal. Okay, so in this video, I talked about building a foundation when we're starting a new goal. And in the next video, I will address why we eventually forget about these goals and some measures that we can take to increase our consistency. Be sure to mention any thoughts in the comments down below and any feedback or ideas on future videos. Be back in the next video.